Today's topic is the 3 final stages of the third density human species. The 3 final stages of the third density human species. So, let's see what's there. If you're watching this now, that means there was something there. So here we go. Greetings and thank you once again for going with our inspiration and the statement, the 3 final phases of the third density human species. So it is our intent with this channel to lay out a roadmap of a time, so you can have an expectation of what is ahead, and hoping that having this expectation gives you some solace when some of the things that we are describing begin to take shape, particularly the initial phase of this last period of humanity as a third density species. So, the first stage or the first phase is decline. And this is something which began some time ago and is going to continue for some time yet. The low point of this decline has not been reached. In some ways, but in other ways it has been reached. Part of the decline which has not yet bottomed out is the infrastructure, is the supporting apparatus of the society which each of you are to a degree embedded into. The structure of your own life is built on this infrastructure of the society, and this infrastructure is in decline. And we are talking about the systems which have been in place to give your society some functionality. However, these systems have been under the control and continue to be under the control of the unified malevolence, those who are focused around the negative or darkness end of the spiritual spectrum. So, a decline in these systems is synonymous with a decline in their power. Therefore, even though it will result in some hardship and also some concern about what this is going to mean for your future, it is a necessary part of the deconstruction of the control systems which have been marching humanity towards a vision of those focused around the dark end of the spectrum. That vision is nothing good for humanity. It will serve only the few who are the masters of that system, and those who are subject to the system, subjugated by the system, will live a life of impoverishment, of suffering, of stripping of liberty, and so on and so on and so on and so on. This is something we have discussed many times before. So, this decline, although concerning and causing of perhaps a bit of anxiety, is a necessary part of the last stage which culminates in humanity's ascension. This breakdown of the control system must take place because this control system constrains the humanity being. It prevents the humanity being, by design, from realizing what it is, from moving to the light, from awakening to the true purpose of humanity's existence and destiny. So, for these revelations to take place, the control system must be deconstructed. And this deconstruction is taking place now because the force of light within humanity is so powerful that it is tearing itself free of this control system. So no matter how much the control system tries to continue this constraint, this stunting of the human being and the greater humanity being, it cannot. And the humanity being is tearing itself free of the tethers which have kept it strapped in the one place for a very long time. As this decline deepens in the control system, then much of the functionality that each of you have relied on so that your own life remains livable will shake, will lose some of their capacity to serve that function, and some parts of the control system will dissolve altogether. Now, this is necessary. This is going to happen. This is already, when you look about, underway. The best thing that you can do is to start making decisions which are for the purpose of preparing you for what's ahead. Look about your life now and decide what is it in your life that is absolutely essential for your continuance. And then focus your available resources into ensuring that you have those things going forward. And if access to those things from an external provider disappears, then you will still be able to continue from your internal provisions. This is the time to begin thinking in this way. So when this deconstruction is most profound, you are not left wanting and unprepared. There is much information on this available, so we will not go into it more, other than to say it is our strong recommendation that you begin giving some mind to the possible scenarios you would face if there was a breakdown of the infrastructure which gives society its functionality. The second stage of the final 3 stages of the third density human species is the Renaissance. When humanity reaches the point where it has mostly excised the cabal of darkness, the unified malevolence, which for a very long time has been shaping the culture and engineering suffering on your planet, then humanity will have a period of rediscovering what it is and stepping increasingly into the light, which is synonymous with becoming increasingly unified, because the light is a place of unification. The light is the force of the one, and the one is the ultimate unification. It is the group being which encompasses the all. It is everything unified into the one. Therefore, as humanity moves deeper into the light, then this unification is going to manifest in ways which increase the capacities of humanity as a species. Because it is going to increase the capacities of the single being which humanity comprises, the humanity being. And the resources the individual contain will no longer be what is available within the confines or the borders of one's own body. Each individual will instead become increasingly networked into the larger. So, the human cultural attributes, or the human attributes which contribute to culture, such as creativity, intelligence, eloquence, poetry, emotional understanding, social coherence, science, mathematics, physics, in all of these endeavors and all of these fields of human expansion in the physical realm, those within these fields who are practitioners will draw their inspiration, their mentality, their power to take the understanding of these fields to entirely new levels, will be drawn not from the individual but from the greater humanity being. So you yourself also will become an individual of much greater capacity. You will have what will seem like savant or prodigious abilities which came from nowhere, which you didn't really have before. You weren't really a being of great wisdom before, but now you are. Why is this so? I didn't really have a prodigious understanding of physics, but now I do. What happened? What changed? I wasn't able to put words on a page with such beauty that they can move a person to tears. Why? What changed? This will be an experience which is commonly felt within the humanity being for the many individuals within who challenge their capacity to create in some field of human endeavor. Because they will be tapped into the humanity being, and they will be drawing on the capacity of this larger being rather than just relying on the single individual capacity. So as you would expect, if this is going to occur more and more and more, then there is going to be an explosion in contribution from each individual human to what it means to be human, to all fields of endeavor. And this explosion will be a great renaissance. Humanity will jump forward tremendously in space travel, in energy creation, in health, longevity, cooperation, self-understanding, and so on, and so on, and so on. During this period, there will be rapid change in the earth. And there will be rapid change in the humanity being. The changes in the earth will be mostly energetic as it prepares itself for humanity's ascension and also its own ascension. Because humanity has been contained by this unified malevolence for a very long time, then humanity is very far behind its evolution towards this point of ascension into fourth density than was intended in the original design. Because the Earth is the host to the human species. The human species is the sentience of the Earth. It is the one being. And because the humanity has been stunted in its growth, then the Earth being has deliberately been holding back its own energetic changes so that it remains compatible with this Earth human species, which has been stunted. But when humanity enters the Renaissance, this middle stage of the last three stages, there will be an explosive expansion in the energy of the humanity being. And this will allow the Earth being to go through a more rapid change in its own energy, because it can do that under these conditions and still remain compatible with the Earth human species, because of course the Earth human species is going through its own rapid energetic change. During this time, the energetic change of the Earth, which is coinciding with this energetic change in the humanity being, will manifest in ways which will be an increasing in the purity of its substance, an increasing in the clarity of its vibration. So for humanity, this will be observed as being the air becoming cleaner, the water becoming more pure, the occurrence of violent climactic events becoming less so, the disruption of the crust through volcanoes and earthquakes becoming less so. And this will be a very synchronistic and symbiotic coupling of the energies of the Earth being and the human being as they start to resonate more and more as the single being, because of course this is what the Earth being and the humanity being really are, the one being. In the ultimate extrapolation, everything is the one being. But the design is there are group beings embedded in group beings. So you yourself are a group being, and the individual beings within your group being are the cells within your body. Each of those have a degree of autonomy and self-consciousness. And they comprise, or they contribute to they partially comprise the larger being, which is you. And you being the group being are part of a larger group being, and that larger group being is the humanity being. And the humanity being is part of a larger group being, and that larger group being is the Earth being. And the Earth being is part of the solar system being, and the solar system being is part of the galaxy being, and the galaxy being is part of the ultimate being, the One. So, during this period of Renaissance, the Earth being and the humanity being will begin to vibrate more and more as the single being. So the humanity being increasingly recognize in an energetic and vibratory sense that it is part of the Earth. And so this harmony will begin to take form. And then when this becomes increasingly so, the capacities of each individual and the humanity being as a whole will take even more of an exponential burst, because as the humanity being becomes more and more, and there's this resonance between all individual humans, so that each individual human now is able to draw on the resources of the entire being rather than just the individual, when this harmony with the Earth also becomes increasingly so, then this field of potential from which the individual can draw their talents will now include an entire planet, rather than just the humanity being. And so, the prodigiousness of each individual's contribution to the human culture and the frontier of human understanding will take an even steeper incline as it speeds towards the singularity, the point which is unreachable within the third density. And this signifies the beginning of the third and final stage of the third density human species. And it will be the rebirth. And the rebirth will be the human species exiting the gestatory womb of third density, passing through the birth canal of Ascension and being birthed into the fourth density state. This is the rebirth. This is the beginning of the new human species. So, the part of this process which is contained within the third density is entering the birth canal of Ascension. And then once passing through the birth canal, then that is the end of third density for the Earth human species. And the Earth human species then will be a species of unity, of spiritual oneness. So there will no longer be the dichotomous state where there is a confusion about one is, where one believes they are the darkness and also believing they are the light simultaneously. This is characteristic only of the third density. It's not possible to have that misconception of self within the fourth density. Although within the fourth density there is still the possibility to make the philosophical choice to follow the path of darkness. However, the experiment which has taken place in this solar system has been to allow a new species to have the experience of not understanding, not realizing that it is the light and nothing but the light, that it is part of the one, that it is part of a unity which includes all within that species. That is the default way that new species are birthed into creation. To be birthed into creation already with an appreciation that they are the light and nothing but the light, having no spiritual dichotomy, realizing they are part of the one, realizing they are part of the single species forming the single being, with each individual within. When when a new species is born into this default state of already having this awareness, then it is believed that the option of choosing the philosophical path of darkness is more likely to occur because there is no true understanding of the experiences of the darkness, of what the darkness, when it is chosen, exerts on others who are subject to the consequences of a group making the philosophical choice to follow the path of darkness. But if a species is birthed into creation with a spiritual dichotomy and no recognition of their nature as being a being of the light and nothing but the light, no true sense of their connection to the one and connection to each individual, then they will pass through a gauntlet of darkness as they move towards this realization of what they truly are. This realization, which must be achieved over thousands of lifetimes, that every other species in history has been born already in possession of. This is what makes the species of the solar system so very unique. Because the species of the solar system are the first to be born in this state of not realizing they are the light, not realizing they are connected to the one, not realizing they are connected to each other. And therefore, being blessed with the experience of making these discoveries by passing through the gauntlet of darkness and arriving at a state of recognition, realization, epiphany. I am the light. I am the one. Me and all of my fellow species are the same being. We are each other. This is an incredible revelation to have, and one that no others in history of existence have had besides those that have been sentient in your solar system. So this is a very incredibly rare privilege that you are living right now at this moment. Because you have passed through the gauntlet of darkness over many thousands of lifetimes. You have gone to the very depths of suffering and pain and cruelty and sadness and struggle and so on. That when you are birthed into the fourth density, to exist as a being of spiritual unity, identifying entirely as the light, but still having the option of choosing the philosophical pathway of darkness, it is much less likely that the human species will choose the philosophical pathway of darkness, because they themselves passed through the gauntlet of darkness to have this revelation. And so they will have, or you will have, with the rest of the human species, an understanding of the darkness in an experiential sense, which other species that came before you do not. This is what will make humanity profoundly wise. This is what will give humanity an understanding of the light and the darkness in an experiential sense, which will make humanity a source of great wisdom and understanding. And going forward, if this experiment, which is what it is, culminates successfully, then this will become more of the way that new species are birthed into existence. They'll be birthed into existence in a similar state to the way that humanity was birthed into existence. Meaning, birthed into existence, rather than already as a fourth density being, which is in a state of spiritual unity, but as a third density being, which has the capacity to misidentify oneself and believe it is the darkness, as well as the light, having no connection to the one, to all other aspects of the species of which it is a part, so that it too will pass through the gauntlet of darkness, being birthed into fourth density as a being of spiritual unity, with this same profound understanding in an experiential sense of what the darkness is, and what it means to be the light, and therefore also will be very unlikely to choose the philosophical pathway of darkness. In a universal sense, much of the hardship and suffering which is experienced by species within this one being, within this universal being, is the result of some species taking the philosophical pathway of darkness and then emoting those choices, that indifference, that selfishness on other aspects of the one being, on other species, who then must suffer as a direct consequence. If new species being birthed into existence pass through this methodology which the humanity being is in right now as a form of prototype, then this scenario of species taking the philosophical pathway of darkness is expected to become less and less and less and less until eventually it is no longer a feature of existence. This is the importance of your role. This is the possible outcome from what is going on here. Understand the incredible contribution that each of you are making to be born into this world, which for us, as we observe, is a degree of hardship and intolerable that we, if we did not see it, would not be able to fathom. We have observed, and the struggles, the suffering, the confusion, the chaos, the danger, the vulnerability that you all experience within the third density human experience is absolutely shocking to us. And it is with great admiration and awe that we admire the strength you have to be part of this experiment. We observe and we have doubts that we ourselves could be subject to such constraints, such limitations, such pain and suffering, and continue on day after day, year after year, living for decades. So, this final stage, the rebirth, for us and the many trillions who are observing this experiment, is very exciting. And we are very excited that now humanity is moving into these final three stages. Because as these final three stages become deeper entered, it is going to open up an increasing potential for us to be contributors, to in some way play a role in humanity's ascendance, rebirth into the fourth density state as a unified being of spiritual unity, entirely of the light. We contribute now through channels such as you are watching at this moment, but the way in which we will be present will become more tangible, more widespread as this final three stages are penetrated more and more, and particularly in the final stages. In the final stage, the rebirth, when humanity is on an exponential explosion in its expansion and understanding and growth, as it hurtles towards the ascension, our presence will be commonplace. We will be part of that experience. It will be your experience, but we will be there to facilitate in any way that we can. Because by that point, your vibration, your resonance will start to incorporate you into other species. Because, of course, ultimately, the one is the single being. So, just as you are all other aspects of the humanity being, as the expansion grows, you are all other aspects of the entire being. So, as your vibration accelerates to higher and higher levels, then your resonance with other species increasingly becomes more and more and more and more. And we will see you and you will see us more and more and more as kin rather than an alien species. And as this vibration becomes more resonant, becomes more coherent, then that will naturally draw us more and more into your reality. We will increasingly be there by default because we are a species, as is generally the way of species who are fully awakened and higher density. We are beings which are led by vibration. So we are where our vibration is finding resonance. Because we understand that we are part of this one being. And so when this one being, in wherever the vibration is resonant to us, we will naturally be drawn there. Not against our will, but instead through recognition that we understand that is where we are intended to be. That is where the highest synchronicity is. So, that's why you will see us more and more, because we will be where there is the highest synchronicity, and your vibration will be increasingly resonant with us, meaning where you are is where our highest synchronicity will be found, and so we will be present. So let us finish in this way. Start doing some preparation now, so that if there is a loss in functionality of your society, you have internal resources to bridge that gap until that functionality returns, because of course it will return. And as you prepare for this decline in the functionality, also start paying some attention so that you are inclining your emotionality, your spirituality, that you become more aligned with love and its derivatives, that you increasingly move towards the light, that you purge your darkness. And then when the darkness has been mostly snuffed out and the humanity being is allowed to start expanding in an organic way, and the Renaissance begins. Be part of that Renaissance. Be part of that contribution. Discover what capacities you have that you didn't have before. Explore yourself. See what your frontiers are. Draw on the large being. And then finally, look to the heavens. Stare into the light. Feel it drawing you into the Ascension. Allow yourself to become so energetically harmonious, so streamlined, that you blast into the Ascension point like a torpedo, like a rocket that is powered by the intensity of the light. Very exciting times ahead for humanity. very exciting times for us also to observe this transition and also to be part of it as our synchronicity increasingly will find us in your vicinity. The dawning of the new human era as a completely new species is at your doorstep. So, start shifting the focus of your life toward what is approaching, toward the reason that you are here, toward the purpose of this lifetime that you are living. Are you here to accumulate, to gather more wealth, materialism, status, hedonism? Do you believe that is why you're here? Do you believe that is the central, most important purpose of your existence? Or do you believe there is something more? Do you believe that you're heading towards something with the rest of humanity, which is of much greater significance than the accumulation of those small worldly things? Start shaping your life, directing your life, making choices which are compatible with true purpose, with true intent, with the reason that you are here. So that when this process of phenomenons do take place, that you are in a state of calibration with them. And so you are therefore swept up by them and taken, like the rapture, into the fourth density state. Because there is no guarantee that you will be included in the ascension into fourth density. It is entirely possible, and it will be the experience of many within the human field that do not make the transition into the fourth density state, because they will not have energetic compatibility. They will not be ready. And so one must ask, why will that be so? It is because in these final times, as this event is approached, they continue to choose the desires of the avatar: wealth, status, materialism, hedonism. And this is a short-sighted vision. This does not prepare one for the true treasures which are at hand. For many thousands of years, you have been building to this lifetime. You have passed through a gauntlet of suffering, which has spanned many thousands of years, so that you will be in a state of realization of yourself as the light, which is adequate to successfully ascend into the fourth density. This is what it's all about. This is why you are here. So, expand your self-definition to encompass all of the lives that you have lived, and make your decision from that perspective. If you continue to choose the desires of the avatar which you animate right now, then you disrespect, you dishonor, you neglect, you ignore all those versions of you that you have lived before, that have passed through lifetimes of suffering and hardship and confusion, so that you, this version that you are existing as right now, could have the incredible experience of ascending into the fourth density state. The choice is yours. What do you choose? Thank you, and we love you.